I've got a bad ball joint, so I've got the Jeep up on jack stands, tires are off, and I'm taking off the brake calipers. There are two 13mm bolts that hold the calipers to their mounting brackets. After that, I'm going to pry the caliper against the rotor just a little bit, enough to open the caliper up enough that it's easy to take it off. And set it to the side. Taking the cotter pin off the axle nut, well, off the axle shaft, I should say. And then there's the retainer for the axle nut and a little spring washer that goes under it. I'm going to take off the axle nut now. And you can see I used my hammer to stabilize the axle. And take off the brake rotor. There's a washer in here. I'm taking it off now. You can actually probably just leave it there and it would come off when you pulled off the hub. So the hub comes off with 3 bolts, 13mm. The nuance to this is that the bolt heads are 12 point, not 6 point, so you have to use a 12 point socket. Alright, after those bolts are out, the hub should just slide off. Right here it sticks a little bit to the axle shaft, but you can just push it through and take off the hub, take off the brake shield, and then pull the shaft out of the axle. Now I'm going to remove the cotter pin and the castle nut from the upper ball joint. Same thing for the lower one. We're going to remove the cotter pin, and then the castle nut, we're going to loosen it, but I'm not going to take it off all the way. You'll see why in just a minute, but I'm going to leave it on just a few turns. And now I'm going to disconnect the steering the same way, remove the cotter pin, remove the castle nut. However, once the castle nut is off, we're going to put it back on upside down, and only far enough that the stud is not quite sticking up from the center of the nut. So we can do this. Okay, there is a flat spot on the steering knuckle, and I'm hitting it with the hammer. And this is why I left the nut on the bottom before. If the knuckle came loose and the nut wasn't there, it would go flying. It's heavy. Can you tell which ball joint is bad? Okay, to press the joint out, this is the setup that I'm using. This can vary from situation to situation. If this ball joint was messed up too, I wouldn't be able to press it off the stud. I'd have to press it off the housing. So how you stack these parts can change. So those are the old ball joints, and these are the replacements. They are rough country, they're chrome moly, they're greasable. I've cleaned up the knuckle, and the first step is to put the Zerk into the lower ball joint. Okay, now I'm going to remove the grease cap. I don't want to take a chance on messing it up while I'm installing it. And picking an appropriate piece and pressing it into place. You have to do the lower ones first, and unfortunately for me my good jack broke, so I'm working a little low to the ground today, but we got her done. It doesn't take a lot of force to press these. Then the grease cap goes back on, and same procedure for the top. We're going to remove the grease cap, press the joint in, now I'm going to replace the grease boot and install the Zerk up top. From this point forward, the installation is the reverse of removal.